For decades, Islamic extremists have relied on their interpretation of the Quran to justify jihad. But last year, a respected Muslim scholar and jurist issued a fatwa against terrorist and suicide bombers, warning that violence was a breach of the beliefs of Islam. Dr. Tahir-ul-Qadri is a former professor of law at the University of Punjab and advisor on Islamic law to the Supreme Court of Pakistan. Muhammad Tahir-ul-Qadri, welcome to the studio. Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Can we talk about Afghanistan for a moment? What impact do you think the gradual withdrawal of Western forces after being in the country so long is going to make for the future of the Afghan people?
I think when NATO forces took over, they had ultimately to give the possession finally to the Afghan people. This was in their original plan, and it had to be. But now, as gradually this process will take place, I think it is necessary to take some people who don't belong to extremist groups of Taliban, to take them into confidence. Those people, those who believe in democracy, who believe in education, who believe in human rights and women's rights. I personally know there are a large number of people in Afghanistan. They are not known as Taliban. Unfortunately, people living in outside Afghanistan, particularly in Western world, those who are not directly related with that part of the world, they think as if everybody living there is Taliban.
Has the United States and its allies, have they done enough to foster those and support those people who support democracy, who are broad-minded, not the narrow-minded people of whom you were speaking?
When Afghanistan became independent and Russian occupation was ended, I went there in Kabul at that time along with 20-25 officials and leaders of my movement just to congratulate them and to provide them some humanitarian aid for rehabilitation of the country, for rehabilitation of people, as much as we could do at that time. This was humanitarian aid. So I met many people at that time who were totally against Taliban and against Talibanization. And they were not Taliban-minded people. I don't know where they are now. They must be contacted. At that time, Professor Sibwatullah Mujaddidi, he was the caretaker, or you can say interim president of that time. So he was also one of my friends. And many people with that time cabinet who were working with them, and many people at that time and up till today who don't believe in Taliban ideology, who are not extremist and terrorist in their ideology, and they have theological differences with them, they have academic and philosophical differences with them, they have a different viewpoint as far as the ruling pattern of the country is concerned. I hope they must have done these contacts, because without this it would be impossible to build up a very positive and dependable future.
Turning to your own country, Pakistan, video has emerged in recent days of the apparent execution of Pakistani policemen by the Taliban. The man in charge of the executioners encourages them to kill the enemy of Allah's faith. He says, these are all the enemies of God's religion, quote unquote. Is that sort of rhetoric widely believed, or is it merely a propaganda tool?
I will totally, first of all, condemn this activity, this approach, and this kind of announcement or this kind of preaching. Secondly, coming to your question, this is not the faith of Islam. This is very big misconception and misunderstanding which exists between the non-Muslim and particularly Western world and Islamic world. And one of the major reasons are some handful extremists and terrorists, those I think who have hijacked certain terms of Islam and teachings of Islam. They have brought a bad name, and they have created this misunderstanding between the Muslim world and non-Muslim world. Islam does not believe in this aspect, this kind of approach. Islamic viewpoint is that life and blood of a non-Muslim is equally substantially and equally significant as the life and blood of a Muslim.
If what you say is the case, why is it then that other people of faith are able to convince, what is it in the Quran or in the teachings of the Prophet that enable them to say to people that suicide bombing, acts of terrorism are justified, and in fact to announce their own fatwa in that way?
So as I have mentioned in this fatwa also, as you have said, the basic thing is that neither suicide bombing is justified in any case.
Well, why do so many people
totally
believe,
forbidden.
so many Muslims believe that it is?
No. They are totally wrong. Many people among the Muslim community do not believe it. They are a very small minority. These are criminals. These terrorists are totally criminals. They are crazy people. They have never learned the proper teachings of Islam. They are not scholars. And they have never learned the proper classical books explaining the teachings of Quran and Sunnah. They are just warriors. Either they have some political agendas, or they are reactionaries of certain international political situations which they are dissatisfied with. But instead of doing these activities on the name of their political agenda, unfortunately they are misusing the name of Islam.
Ahmad Tahir-ul-Qadri, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much too.